Oh, how embarrassing. Hi. Hey, friends. You caught me eating my breakfast. Hold on just 1 minute and I'll be right back. Okay, hi again. Sorry about that. I was eating my breakfast and thinking about the time that Jesus had breakfast with his disciples after the resurrection. Do you know that story? Oh, it's a really, really good one. So, I was reading about it this morning in John chapter 21, and Jesus was on the beach, and some of the disciples, including Simon Peter and John and Thomas, were out fishing. They didn't know Jesus was on the beach, and they'd been fishing all night and they caught nothing. And then as they were starting to come into shore, Jesus called out to them and said, "Did you catch anything?" And they said, "No." And he said, "Cast your net on the other side." And they did, and they caught so many fish that their net was completely full. And it was at that moment that they realized that it was Jesus on the beach, because Jesus had done that before. When Jesus called them to be disciples, and some of them were fishermen, he told them to cast their net on the other side, and they caught so many fish that their boat started to sink. And so they realized it was Jesus. And Peter jumped out of the boat, grabbed his tunic, jumped out of the boat, and swam to meet Jesus on the beach. And there Jesus had breakfast ready for them. He told them to bring some of their fish, and he cooked up some more of the fish for them, and they ate together. But Simon Peter had some business with Jesus that morning, or rather, Jesus has had some business with Simon Peter. What do you remember about Peter? Okay, so Peter was a fisherman. What else? Peter was the first disciple to declare that Jesus was the Messiah. Good. What else? Right. Peter was one of the disciples who ran to the tomb after Mary and the other women reported that Jesus had resurrected. Good. What else? Yeah, you got it. Peter denied Jesus 3 times during Jesus's trial. And Peter was horrified at himself. The Bible tells us that when Peter realized that he had denied Jesus, just like Jesus told him he was going to, he wept bitterly. So Jesus and Peter had some business. And the Bible tells us that after they had finished eating, this is in John chapter 21, verse 15, when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," Peter said, "you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you truly love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The 3rd time, Jesus said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the 3rd time, "Do you love me?" He said, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." And Jesus said, "Feed my sheep. I tell you the truth, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, "Follow me." Now, a lot of this can be confusing, and a lot of really smart people have written books and sermons about this encounter between Peter and Jesus, looking at the original language, looking at even just what it means that Peter put on his tunic before jumping off the boat. All of this has a lot to it. But what I want you to take away today is that Jesus does not abandon us when we make a wrong move. Peter had denied Jesus, and yet Jesus came back to finish that relational business and to make things right. Jesus called Peter to care for his flock, to care for God's people, even though Peter had denied him. When we are willing to admit that we are wrong and turn back to Jesus and make things right with him, Jesus is there waiting. Jesus always wants us to come back to him. Jesus always wants to make that relationship right. So friends, as you go about your day, you might do some things wrong. You might snap at your brother or your sister or your parents, or if you're an adult, you might snap at your kids or your spouse. You might doubt that God is really there, which is normal. You might break something, which is not a sin. We all break things, but it happens, but it's a mistake and we feel bad about it. God is always there, no matter how innocent or how egregious our missteps. Jesus is always there to cook us breakfast and tell us to follow him. Friends, I love you so much. I hope that you have a blessed day. Thank you for joining me in this Bible time. And I will see you again soon. Bye, friends.